Hello there, how are you doing today? I welcome you all to my YouTube channel. So friends, today the topic that we will be covering is understanding the EC2 instance life cycles. Let's first see what will be the topics that will be covered in this session. So we will see what are the different life cycle of Amazon EC2 instance. So life cycle, by this I mean there will be different phases when the EC2 instance is there in our EC2 instance has been launched. So after the launching state, it will go to the pending state, then running, stopping, hibernating, rebooting, and terminated. So these are the various life cycle of an EC2 instance. And in the upcoming slide, we will discuss each of the phase or state, you can say, in detail. And finally, we will summarize whatever that was covered as part of today's session. So let's get started. So just to understand what is the life cycle of an EC2 instance, I have drawn a flow chart as you can see here. Okay, so it first starts with the AMI. So if you are not aware about AMI, so it is short form of Amazon Machine Image, and AMI is nothing but it contains the set of rules or templates as well as some specific configuration you want. We can also customize our own AMI. So if you are not aware about AMI and associated thing, then I would recommend you to check out my previous video on that one. I'll also share the link in the description. So from AMI we will launch an EC2 instance. As soon as we launch it, it will be there in the pending state for a while, and then it turns to the running state. Okay, so between pending and running state there will be several backend activities that will happen. So one of the activity that we can say is it will perform the status checks. So if you are aware, there will be two status check. One is instance status check, another is system status check, and these checks are required to ensure whether underlying host or EC2 instance are healthy, are able to connect over the network, and all the associated things. Once everything is passed, or those two checks are passed, we can see the instance will be in a running state. So this is the state where we get the private IP address, which is the default, and public IP address if we have selected for that, and then we can start accessing the EC2 instance. Okay, once it goes to the running state, there can be couple of options. We can either stop an EC2 instance or we can reboot the EC2 instance. Let's talk about how to stopping state. Okay, so the stopping will be applicable, or rather than applicable, I would say it is recommended to stop the EC2 instance which is having EBS backed EC2 instance. Okay, EBS root volume. So there are two types. So an EC2 instance may have an EBS, that is elastic block storage volume, as a root volume, and it can also have an ephemeral, that is instance store volume. So the difference between both is, if we stop the EBS backed volume, then the data will be retained. Okay, however, if it is of type of instance store or ephemeral type of storage, then the data will be lost. So it's recommended we can go for an EC2 instance to stop it only if it has EBS backed root volume. Okay, so once we perform the stopping, it will go to the stopping state and it will be in the stopped state, as you can see here. Okay, so under this phase, so for the compute related perspective, there won't be any charges applicable. However, if in case say our EC2 instance has multiple volumes, EBS volumes, and it contains the valid data, in that case there will be the charges with respect to the storage associated with that. Okay, so you need to make a note of this thing. Again, from running state, there is another option is we can perform the reboot. So this is similar to the OS reboot. Okay, and after rebooting state, it will again come to the running state. So from running state, if we choose to select the terminate, so termination is the step when we want to delete the EC2 instance. Okay, so in that case we can go and select the terminate option. So with terminate, first of all it will go to the shutting down state, and after that it will go to the terminated state. Okay, so these are the some of the things, or life cycle you can say, EC2 instance life cycle. So now let's understand each of the phases in detail in the upcoming slide. Now let's first talk about what happens in the stopping state and the things to know with respect to the same. Okay, so we can, as we covered in the previous slide, we can stop those EC2 instances which have EBS backed root volume, because the EBS backed root volume, the data will be retained even we stop it. Okay, however, if it is ephemeral or instance store type EBS volume, instance store type volume, then in that case the EC2 instance may lose its associated data, because that will be not, it will be a temporary data, and it will the data will be lost in that case. Okay, so for EBS root volume, as we discussed, the volume remains attached after stopping and starting the EC2 instance. So this is, we can say, stopping is a way that we can migrate the underlying host from one host to another host. Like as we covered previously, during this pendings to running state, some activities happen at the backend. It will check if the host is healthy and if it is connected with the network, power, and storage, etc. So once we stop it, so what it will be done is, say if there is if a particular host is being used previously, then after stopping the EC2 instance, it will be migrated to the another host. Okay, so that happens. This is the important thing here. And as we also covered earlier, if an EC2 instance is stopped, then there won't be any charges for the compute capacity. However, if data is there, then there will be charges associated with that. And another most important thing is, with respect to stopping the EC2 instance, the public IP address gets changed. However, the private IPv4 and IPv6 addresses are retained for stopping the activity. However, see, if we have any elastic IP that has been assigned to the EC2 instance, and if we stop, then since it is elastic, that is static IP addresses, it will be retained. Okay, it won't be changed. Okay, so elastic IP address is another is also a public IP address only. Okay, however, it will be static, and hence it will be retained even we stop and start the EC2 instance. Then the next thing that we can consider with respect to stopping EC2 instance is, the data in the RAM will be lost when we are stopping the EC2 instance. So if we don't want this to happen, we can go for hibernating instead of stopping. So that will cover in the next slide. Now let's talk about what happens in the hibernation of the EC2 instance. So this is the feature that is, it's supported on only few of those AMIs. It's not supported on all AMIs, and we can enable this option during the instance launching operation. So in hibernation state, what happens? The data is stored in the EBS volume, and even after we will hibernate the EC2 instance, and once it is back, then the data in the RAM will be unaffected. And similarly, if say some of the processes are there in the RAM at present, while we choose to hibernate, then the processes will be resumed. However, if we are stopping EC2 instance, the processes gets killed first, and after stopping, we need to start all these processes get start from beginning. Okay, so that is not the case with the hibernation. So the associated processes and everything will be resumed. Okay, so it won't be cancelled, it will be resumed from the point. That is about hibernation. Now, as the topic goes on rebooting, so we can reboot an EC2 instance. So we can reboot a running EC2 instance, and once we reboot it, the IPv4, IPv6 and DNS gets unchanged while performing the reboot of the EC2 instance. Now let us switch over to what happens when we are terminating an EC2 instance. So see, termination is nothing but the deletion of the EC2 instance. So we can terminate it either if it is in the running state or stop state. So once terminated, there are no charges are applicable on the terminated EC2 instance, and by default the EBS root volumes are terminated upon the instance termination. Okay, so see, if we have an EBS root volume attached to the EC2 instance, and if we choose to terminate or delete that, then by default the EBS volume also will get deleted. However, there is an option that is we can select enabling the termination protection of that EBS volume. What will happen in that case? Even if you delete or terminate the ec2 instance, the EBS volume will be there and that will be available, and we can use it for future reference or future other tasks in that case. Okay. And the most important thing to note is, once an instance has been terminated, there is no way that we can recover it. Okay, so that is the most important thing. So friends, let's summarize whatever the things we discussed so far in the ec2 instance lifecycle. So we had discussed about the different lifecycle phases. So the phases such as pending state, running state, stopped, terminated, etc. These are some of the states for ec2 instance. So a running state is, once we launch an ec2 instance from an AMI, it will go to the pending state for a while, and then it turns to the running phase, stop state. So once the instance is there in the running state, we can choose to stop it or perform the different other phases. So the stop state is when we can do the we can stop the ec2 instance only. It is advisable or it's recommended to stop an ec2 instance if it has EBS backed volume. Okay, if it has ephemeral or instance store kind of volume, then that ec2 instance, if we stop it, then data will be lost. Okay, so that is the important thing. And once we have stopped an ec2 instance, its public IP address has been gets changed, but the private IP addresses and elastic IP addresses, if it is associated, that it will be retained. Okay. And in addition to that, the contents of RAM are lost when we stop an ec2 instance. Okay. So with respect to charges, as we covered earlier, so there won't be any charges with respect to the compute capacity since ec2 instance gets stopped. But if there is a data inside that, inside the EBS volume, then that will be applicable. Now let's talk about hibernating state that we covered today. So this is the feature that is applicable only on the supported AMIs. Okay, and that can be enabled during the launching phase. The data in the RAM is stored on the EBS volume, and hence it will be unaffected, and the RAM contents are reloaded from EBS volume and processes. So once the ec2 instance has been hibernated, so the RAM contents are reloaded, and all those processes which were there, so those processes will get resumed. So that will be resumed at the point it was before, unlike in the stopping state where the processes are killed either gracefully or using the other ways, and will be started from the beginning. That is not applicable in the hibernating state. Okay. Then we also discussed about what happens in the rebooting state. So rebooting is nothing but a way we can reboot an OS operating system. A running ec2 instance can be rebooted, and after rebooting it goes to rebooting state and again turns to running state. So in this phase, what happens is the IPv4, IPv6 and DNS are changed once we perform the reboot operation. Finally, we also covered about the terminating for the ec2 instance, and the termination is the state where we choose to delete the ec2 instance. By default, the EBS volume will be removed, and there is a way that we can choose our EBS volume to be retained even the instance has been deleted. So for that, we need to enable the termination protection. There is a button there, and we can select it, so that even we can choose this during the launch operation, and it will be termination protection will be enabled, and the instance will be retained even the instance has been deleted. There is no charges that are associated for the terminated ec2 instance, and once an ec2 instance has been terminated, there is no way that we can recover it. So friends, that was a theoretical lecture today. I hope you got some idea about the ec2 instance lifecycle and what happens post rebooting or after each of these different phases. So please like, share, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. As you know, the videos like this take some effort, so I'll really appreciate if you could like, share, subscribe and comment to my YouTube channel. So friends, thank you so much for your time again, and have a great weekend and next great week ahead. Okay, take care. Bye bye.